Are you new to homeschooling, considering homeschooling, or have been homeschooling for a while and are just interested learning more? I am a big reader. I'm in my 10th year homeschooling, so I'm going to share with you my favorite books. I have two full entire shelves of homeschool books, but these are the best ones. I was a previous teacher. Long story short, quit my teaching job to go work in corporate America because testing was just really bad for the kids. I don't know what else to say. It like sucked the soul out of me teaching because there was no creativity. When I first thought about homeschooling, this was the first book that I found at the library, Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto. Long story short, he was Teacher of the Year. Ended up leaving teaching after almost 30 years in the classroom. You just have to read his work. He's just a remarkable person. So this is a great one. If you're kind of on the fence about homeschooling, but intuitively you feel that there's something just not right, his work is a great, it just gives you that different perspective from somebody who's been in the classroom of what's really going on in education and why it is the way that it is. And it will answer so many questions for you. When I got this book, I could not put it down. I read it in one night. It spoke to me as a teacher. I was just like, nobody else could like explain it this way because everybody's just kind of going with the motions. Okay, his second book, if you're really interested in the history of American education, this is the underground history of American education. This is kind of a deeper, harder read because it's a lot of history. But there are some pictures, there's some newspaper articles. It is very, very interesting. It's something that you can just kind of go back and forth through. Anyway, those are my first two. If you are kind of on the fence on homeschooling and maybe need to be a little bit more inspired, these will certainly inspire you. But they also might trigger you too. So fair warning. I know I talked about this a long time. If you are a Christian, I actually went to a homeschooling conference and listened to this Israel Wayne speak. It's Education, Does God Have an Opinion? Fun fact, I actually was not a Christian when I first started homeschooling. I am in my 10th year, so it's been a long journey for me. So this was kind of in my early Christian years. This is just a really good deep dive in biblically of why we need to be raising our own children. So if you're a Christian, highly recommend that one. Then on parenting, because a huge part of homeschooling is parenting. It will trigger you in ways that you just can't even understand because you're with your children all day. And children have to be kind of civilized. They're kind of like little, I heard somebody describe it this way, and I don't know if it's the best way to describe it, but like little cave people that you have to civilize, which is true in a way. They're intelligent beings, they're beautiful beings, but you have to teach them manners. You have to teach them a lot of things that can be incredibly frustrating. My very favorite parenting book that I have gone to over and over and over again is The Simplicity Parenting. This Kim John Payne is actually a therapist. I love the simplicity of parenting. You do not have to complicate it. There are loads and loads of parenting books. Just get this one. It's amazing and an easy read. It's not super big. And just really practical tips that are, this book I read, I mean, it's been out for a while. I probably read this 11 years ago, 2009. So it came out a while ago. However, it is so applicable to today's times. Then these books are amazing. They are really will help you. I have these in like different ages and stages, but you'll have to look at this Louise Base Ames. These are such gold mines on like the different developmental stages of your children. I find this incredibly helpful when you're homeschooling them so that you understand like what's going on in their body, what's going on in their mind at the time. Again, a lot of homeschooling is just knowing how to parent, knowing how to speak to your children. It's not just about education. You've got to look at this from a holistic perspective. If you are a working mom, highly recommend getting this book by Mary Jo Tate. It's called Flourish Balance for Homeschool Moms. She was she is a single mom. I don't know if she's married. I've had this book a long time. You can tell I've highlighted a lot. I have worked the majority of the 10 years that we've homeschooled. The tips in here are gold if you have to work while you're homeschooling, or if you're wanting to start your own online business. There's great tips in this book. It's such a good read. You can get it for like $5 or $6. I'm going to go back to parenting. 2,000 Kisses a Day is amazing. Got to check her out. This is R.L. Cross. I had suffered a lot of emotional and verbal abuse as a child, so I had to heal through a lot of things in my early years of parenting, and I'm so grateful that I had this book to guide me along different things. So that's all I'll say about that. When my children were little, I got super obsessed in Waldorf education. So there's a Steiner homeschool. If you're interested in just kind of that very dreamy, play-based learning, Waldorf is beautiful. It's amazing. This is a great book. I love this author, Barbara J. Patterson and Pamela Bradley. You can go follow both of them. Beyond the Rainbow Bridge is great for the early years. I'm so grateful that I found Waldorf education, because for the early years, it really did help my children thrive and become incredibly creative people. Then, Heaven on Earth is a handbook for parents of young children. This is such a good read. It's a big read, but it gives you a lot of really good practical tips. I highly recommend if you have young children. Just very peaceful way of raising your children. That's a simple way to say it. And I'm sure if you've been around homeschooling, Charlotte Mason, you can actually read her books. They're amazing. However, I really like Karen R. Androla's, her companion book. This is gold. So many possibilities, so many ideas, just really helps guide you along on why Charlotte Mason education is so valuable. Another education philosophy I really liked in the early years was Montessori. So Maria Montessori books are a great dive to get into also. Then if you've heard of classical conversations, you've kind of got a classical education. This type of education did not work great for our family. I really loved so much of it because I love the education part of it. However, my husband and I are both very creative people. So are our children. They are likely not going to go to college to become lawyers, and that's okay with us. But if that's kind of the path that you want a very rigorous education for your children, The Well-Trained Mind is amazing. And it's still a good read, even if you don't feel like that's a philosophy that you want to follow in your homeschool. I still have learned a lot from it because I am very adamant about strong reading, writing, and arithmetic skills. So I got a lot of gold ideas from these books. The Core is also written by the lady who created Classical Conversations. And then Classical Christian Education Made Approachable is a great one if you're new to classical conversations or classical education. This is like leadership training. I would probably put this in the category of like eclectic homeschooling, maybe even a little bit of unschooling. This is like how our founders were educated. I have so many tabs in this book because I do have older children now. It's super helpful for older kids. Sandra Dodds, if you're interested in unschooling, this book is super helpful, very practical, real life examples. And then the Teenage Liberation Handbook. This was one of the first homeschool books that I found. And I was like, this is the education I needed as a creative neurodivergent kid. So if that is, you have a teenager, I wouldn't maybe just give this straight to them. I would read it first because it does really give your child a way to educate themselves. So that's why I would recommend kind of diving into it before you give it to them to ensure that you're comfortable with a lot of pieces of it. So anyway, that's a great book to have if you're interested in unschooling and you have teenagers, is the Teenage Liberation Handbook. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was super long, but if you're interested in somebody who has read a lot of homeschooling books and has been doing this for a while, and I'm just interested in education myself as a passion, I hope you enjoyed this video and just follow me here for more homeschooling tips that are just practical and like authentic and just actually work. You don't have to complicate homeschooling, and I encourage you not to complicate it.